What's up, Cowboys Nation? Welcome back to another pregame prediction video, the final one of the regular season, Week 18. We got the Dallas Cowboys traveling to FedEx Field to take on the Washington Commanders. Let's talk about it.
Prescott, touchdown. Throw, look the middle, sacked again by Parsons again. CeeDee Lamb, was he down? They say no for now, and he's into the end zone.
Well, once again, welcome back. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more Cowboys content. We're going to be here for at least one more game because we got the postseason coming up, and a lot is riding on this game to see exactly where the Cowboys fall. But I want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you for yet another great, terrific regular season. The best regular season I've ever had, and I've been 3 years into this, covering the Cowboys, doing these pregame prediction videos, doing these postgame reaction videos, and just adding more content for you guys, as well as the Madden predictions. And so I can't thank you enough. We did it. Start, from week 1 to week 18, we made it. And of course, the post-game reaction video will be up right after the game. So I really appreciate each and every one of you. And I'm sure, I hope that you could see the Cowboys from my perspective. I'm a fan, obviously, but I see things unbiasedly and realistically as much as I can. So really glad about the community that we have built here together. I can't appreciate you more, whether you found me on X, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. Thank you so much. And here we go. The Dallas Cowboys take on the Washington Commanders for the second time this year. As we all know, division opponents have 2 games a season, and the first time that these teams met was on Thanksgiving. The Dallas Cowboys won 45-10, won it decisively, and I got to say that was, and I said it in my post-game reaction video, I believe it was probably the most fun I have ever experienced watching a Dallas Cowboys game in recent memory. I mean, that game just had everything. I mean, Dak went off. He had over 300 yards. He had 4 touchdowns. Dolly Parton had that halftime show. It was Thanksgiving. Deron Bland had a pick 6 that set the record. They were jumping in the kettle, eating turkey legs. I mean, it was such a great game, and I remember just thinking that in my post-game reaction video, like this game just had it all. But that was the last time that they met. The Cowboys won, and they can come up here and get the sweep. And if they can get the sweep, a lot of important things can happen. But last time these teams played in Washington, was last year, and it was Week 18, just like it was right now. And the Dallas Cowboys laid an egg at FedEx Field. They lost 26-6. Now, I'd love to sit back and tell you that they weren't playing for anything and that it didn't matter, and that's why the score reflects what it reflects. But it was none of that. The Cowboys actually played with all of their starters that game, and somehow, some way, in Sam Howell's first start ever as a starting quarterback in the National Football League, he managed to win 26-6. The rest is history, but that was just such a stinker of a game. Oh my. Gut reaction going into this game. I think the Cowboys have laid their eggs already. They've played their bad games this season already. We saw it in San Francisco. We saw the bad game in Arizona. We saw the bad game in Buffalo. Look, I think they got it out of their systems because usually it's like 2 or 3 games that you see from the Cowboys where they're just like not the Cowboys at all. And I think we got that out of our systems. So this game should be pretty straightforward. But as you guys know, I'm always, the road, right? The road is such a big thing. The Dallas Cowboys are 11-5, and they're taking on the Washington Commanders, who are currently on a 7-game losing streak. I mean, things are going south in Washington, and they're sitting at a 4-12 record. And they're having a hard time, man. Like, Eric Bieniemy was new there. They thought Sam Howell was the answer. Now he's not starting games, but he started last week just because Jacoby Brissett suffered an injury later in practice that week. And, at this time, I'm making this Tuesday night, so I don't know the status of Jacoby Brissett or Sam Howell. I like to think that it doesn't make a difference, but it kind of does, and we'll talk about that in the offense. Not to say that Jacoby Brissett is Peyton Manning or anything like that, and that Sam Howell is Patrick Mahomes or anything like that. It's just, Sam Howell is more turnover prone. But the Dallas Cowboys are 3-5 on the road, and as you guys know, I'm always talking about the road. Unfortunately, this season, the Dallas Cowboys will end under 500 on the road. Now, they're playing 9 games on the road with the new addition of of one more game added to the NFL schedule for the regular season. Obviously, you're going to be above 500 or under 500 instead of being at 8-8 or 4-4 or anything like that. So the Cowboys, if they win, they're going to end up at 4-5, which is pretty close to where they left off last season on the road, which is 4-4, 5-5 if you include both games on the road in the postseason. So this is important. The Cowboys haven't won a road game in quite a while. They lost to Miami and they lost to Buffalo. So to win a game in FedEx Field, obviously it's not necessarily something you can hang your hat on and be like, hey, we beat the Commanders, But to at least say that you went on the road and you won a game, and I would say this. For me to feel confident going into the playoffs, I want to see a decisive win here. I don't want to see any struggle. I don't want to see it come down to the final minute or anything like that. I want to see a decisive win here, domination, to see this Cowboys team. Because unbiased and realistically, the Cowboys are in a slump. And I know we haven't even jumped into the video yet. They're in a slump. And don't let that fool you. And I got to bring you down to earth because, right, I'm unbiased. I'm realistic. I got to tell you guys the way it is. They're in a slump. And the reason why they're in a slump is they have failed to score more than 20 points in the past 3 weeks. They scored 10 in Buffalo. They scored 20, in Miami. And then they scored 20 at home against Detroit. Now, all three of those teams are competitors and they're contenders. I get it. But, everyone was talking about how highly efficient this offense was. They have failed to score more than 3 touchdowns worth of points, meaning 21 points in the past 3 games. And let's not kid ourselves. And if you checked out my post-game reaction video against the Detroit Lions, thank you very much. But I didn't like how the game ended. I didn't like how the game panned out. So very close to losing, so very close to being on a 3-game losing streak, so close to ruining our home record, our home field record. Just a lot of things. And there are some concerns regardless of that narrow victory against Detroit. And I felt like it was all covered up in the excitement of knowing that we could clinch the NFC East with the win. Now, the Washington Commanders are not a good team. They're 4-12. But they can be feisty. And they are on a 7-game losing streak. I'm not saying they're going to go out there and win the game. I'm not saying that they're better than us. I'm just saying Cowboys have to be prepared. They got to be ready. And knowing how this team is already on the road, that might be the difference that is concerning between these two teams. As much as I know the Cowboys are better than the Commanders, like in and out, they are. The Cowboys, all season, have had a problem going on the road. You could maybe say it's their mentality going into it, their emotions, or just plain out execution. There is something that's not effective on the road that's leading to these closer games, leading to a lack of efficiency on offense. We're seeing turnovers go up. We're seeing penalties go up. We're seeing lack of discipline go up. And weather plays a factor into it. But before we jump in, let's talk about this NFC East, right? There has not been an NFC East champion consistently in our division since 2003. We're in line for that to hopefully remain with that pattern. With the Cowboys, as we look up the scenarios here, the official scenario is this. Dallas clinches the NFC East division title with a Dallas win, or if the Cowboys tie and the Eagles tie, or if the Eagles lose. So the Cowboys are playing the Commanders, the Eagles are playing the Giants, so it's an NFC East showdown in the final week. But here we go. Simplify it, right? Cowboys clinch the NFC East if they win, or if the Eagles lose. And what did I tell you? I told you they were some frauds, man, and they have fallen apart in the past couple of weeks. So who even knows, right? That Giants game could be split. But regardless, the Cowboys got to handle their business. They have a golden opportunity. Believe it or not, just how mediocre that they have been in the past month and losing the opportunity to prove themselves and going on a 2-game losing streak on the road. Despite all of that, Despite all of those issues and those turnovers and those miscues, the Cowboys have a golden ticket right in front of them to at least, if they can win, somehow, some way, find a way to win against Washington, the road goes through Dallas for the most part. Obviously, the NFC East number 1 seed was clinched by the San Francisco 49ers. But if the Cowboys can get this win, they would be the number 2 seed, which guarantees them 2 home playoff games, at least for the 2 rounds, assuming that they win the first one. And potentially, they could get, if we're playing hypotheticals, NFC Championship game, depends on who you're playing. If it's not the San Francisco 49ers, then you might be playing a home game for the NFC Championship at AT&T Stadium. This is big. This is big. And I don't care about the home or away or anything like that. The Cowboys have been in a slump, like I said. And I'm concerned, and I think we're all excited about this opportunity to clinch the NFC East. But that's not to say that this offense has been underperforming and underwhelming in the past couple of weeks when we know it could be better. A lot of that is offensive line play. And a lot of that has been the nature of the play calling with Mike McCarthy. There's been some concern, and they have to be better. And unfortunately, we don't have the cushion of being at home this time. We got to go into a hostile environment. And I'm not talking about FedEx Field. Like, that place is going to be filled with Cowboy fans. But what I'm saying is not the best of conditions, right? And we've seen this Cowboys team struggle in those sort of conditions. So if the Cowboys win, they are the number 2 seed, and they would take on whoever's the number 7 seed, which could be a lot, right? And I'm going to throw this up here so you guys can see. The list goes on potentially of what it could be. It could be the Rams. It could be the Seahawks. It could be the Packers. It could be the Saints. It could be a lot of people. And shout out to Corey Clark right there for doing the math on all of that. I'll be sure to put it up there so you can see. Be sure to follow him. Great research there. If you ask me, probably the Rams. If we end up winning this game, we'll probably play the Rams. But, number 2 seed, number 5 seed doesn't matter to me. You can't go out there and intentionally lose games, or, you don't get to choose who you play. And there's been this sort of conversation going about Cowboys Nation about, do we want the number 2 seed or the number 5 seed? Well, it doesn't matter. The point is you got to go out there and win. That every week, that's the goal. Win, and everything will just fall into place, or everything will fall into place the way it should. And whether you're on the road or whether you're on home, you just got to win the game. Like, that's all it comes down to. We're not the Los Angeles Clippers here. We're not picking and choosing who we're playing, and we're not trying to think steps ahead or anything like that. You just win. Go out there and win, and where the chips fall, and we'll go from there. I'm not even going to think about maybe losing a game or, whatever. That's just such a loser mentality if that begins to pass. But there you go. That's how the Cowboys can clinch the NFC East. Eagles can clinch the NFC East still, unfortunately, if the Cowboys end up losing this game and if the Eagles beat the Giants. So there's a little bit of room there if the Cowboys do end up losing. And both these games are going on at the same time. So that'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. Big setup and scenarios going into Week 18 in the final week. But let's go ahead and jump on in. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's jump into the Cowboys defense versus Commanders offense. Stats up there as we always do. The Cowboys are clearly a better football team in all facets. And, the only thing that's playing a factor into this is the preconceived notions of what happened last year in Week 18, as well as the Cowboys' reputation on the road. That's the only thing that's blurring this. And believe it or not, it does have an impact on these stats, even though we know the Dallas Cowboys have better players, better coaches, and they are the better team. But it comes down to execution. And if we take a look at the Commanders' schedule here, obviously have not won a game dating back to November. November 12th, their last win was against the New England Patriots. Their last win at home was the first game of the season against the Arizona Cardinals. Wow. They have not won a home game in a while. And wouldn't it just be a fairy tale book ending, right? Opening the season with the win, closing the season with the win. I don't want to jinx it, but I'm just saying. I'm so surprised Ron Rivera is still the coach, to be honest. But other than that, that's their schedule. They're abysmal at home. They haven't won since September at home. So just be on the lookout, man. Like I'm going to be honest. I have some, I don't want to say hesitations or anything like that. I just have a gut feeling. It's just like I could see this game going south. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to put it out there in the universe. We can be nervous together. Again, the Cowboys are in a slump, like I keep telling you guys, and they just got to handle their business. Just, you can't play around. I mean, you just got to carpe omnia this and seize everything. But let's jump into it. The Cowboys had 4 sacks last game, and you know, they got after Sam Howell. Sam Howell did throw over 300 yards, though. They found, up until Deron Bland got the interception, they really found, and this was what was really frustrating about that Thanksgiving game, is that the Commanders were hitting those short slants. They were hitting underneath because the freaking Cowboys defense loves to play 8-7 yards off, and they were just giving them everything underneath. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but that just kind of has become the scheme of the Cowboys defense right now. But on the other side of that, Washington is the worst in the league when it comes to being sacked. They have a league high 61 sacks allowed in the league. And if Sam Howell plays, he has thrown a league high 20 interceptions compared to the 20 touchdowns. He's thrown to everyone except me. And that's what I was talking about earlier. I don't know who's going to play Jacoby Brissett or Sam Howell. I feel like Jacoby Brissett gives them the best chance to win. Sam Howell is a turnover machine. He's very flashy. He can make plays, but he's just not disciplined in the pocket, as you can see with the high interception rate. So if he plays, I really like our chances and our opportunity as a defense to pick that off. If Jacoby Brissett plays, I still like our chances, but him being a veteran, you know, he can make the smarter play and not always think he has to win every down. And so those are my differences between the quarterbacks. If Brissett is ready to go and if that injury doesn't linger, he would give Washington the better chance to play. As for Sam Howell, we got tape on him. We know how he plays, and we can exploit him in that way. But and I'll say this, though, about the sacks, even though they're at a league high with 61, that was towards the beginning and the middle of the season. They kind of have that somewhat under control in the past 3 weeks with 1 sack just per game in the past 3 weeks. And the 49ers, heck of a pass rush. They only got 1 sack on the Commanders last week. But this is different. I like our defense, and here are my defensive predictions for the Cowboys and the Commanders going into Week 18 at FedEx Field. I like our pressure. I like our defensive line, especially against their offensive line. Last time they played, the Cowboys got 4 sacks. 4 sacks is a little bit too high, especially in that weather, so I'm going to find myself somewhere in the middle. I'll go 2 to 3 sacks. You know, I'll go 3 sacks that the Cowboys get, and I think 2 of them goes to Micah Parsons. I actually think Micah Parsons has a really great game here in Washington in Week 18 to close out, hopefully, what would be his Defensive Player of the Year resume, and hopefully giving him that award. Now, I do believe the Cowboys defense gets turnovers, and we talked about this last week. It is super important that the Cowboys get turnovers because that's the lifeline to what they do. It gives fire to their defense, and it gives momentum to their offense. So turnovers is big. They have to get there, and I believe they get 2 interceptions. I don't know who the quarterback is, and I don't care who the quarterback is, Jacoby Brissett or Sam Howell. The Cowboys are going to get 2 interceptions, and I will double down on this one. I believe the defense scores in Washington, and they get some points on the board in Week 18 to close out the year, and those are my defensive predictions. Well, once again, be sure to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching again for our final edition of pregame predictions for the regular season here in Week 18. But let's talk about this Cowboys offense and this Commanders defense. Stats up again. Cowboys are dominating in this category. Now, these are season stats. Of course, I'm unbiased and realistic, and I'm telling you guys the Cowboys have been in a slump offensively in the past 3 weeks, failing to score over 20 points. Granted, you played the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. You played the Dolphins in Miami, and you played a pretty tough team with the Detroit Lions. Regardless, if you look at those games, if you look at the All-22, you see something where Mike McCarthy has struggled to get the momentum of the play calling going. And I've seen that the running game is still stuttering. It's still struggling, which, by the way, go out there and sign Dalvin Cook. It will help. But also, it seems that when it's not CeeDee Lamb, this offense fails to move the ball. Now, that's great because we know CeeDee is a great wide receiver, number 1. He's having an astronomical year. But good things happen when you get Jake Ferguson involved, when you get Brandon Cooks involved, when you throw it down the field to Michael Gallup. I want to hopefully see that this game where we can get back into some kind of rhythm and see this offense put together some really successful drives. Now, granted, they're really close, right? If Hunter Lipke doesn't fumble the ball on the first drive of the game against Miami, they score over 20 points. If CeeDee Lamb holds onto the ball with two hands and doesn't fumble into the end zone for the touchback against the Lions, we score over 20 points. So I'm not oblivious to that. There's just these small little things that have gotten in the way. But if we can just execute, especially on the road against a division opponent, this team will look good going into the postseason. But hold up here. Tony Pollard needs 65 yards to get to 1,000 on the season. Just 65 yards, right? And I think to any other running back, that might be a simple step with some, with some difficulty. But last game, when we played the Commanders on Thanksgiving, he had 13 carries for 79 yards. So a little bit of compared to the other games where it's been like 50, 40 yards, he actually had one of his more successful and efficient games against the Commanders. And especially with the weather being what I think it may be and it being on the road, I could see an extra set of carries going Tony Pollard's way. And I really liked the way he ran against Detroit. I know there was a couple of, first down runs that were just hitting a wall and he was getting hit in the backfield. But there were some runs where he was physical and he was getting yards after first contact. So I like Tony Pollard in this game. He needs 65 yards to get to a grand. I think he's going to get those 65 yards. And so let's talk about Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has a 10-2 record versus the Commanders all time in his career. Obviously has never lost them at home when playing at AT&T Stadium, but 2 losses has come at FedEx Field. Last time they played, Dak Prescott went nuclear on Thanksgiving. 331 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He picked apart this Washington defense, and they are not the same. They are even worse. That was not a compliment. I wasn't leading you astray. This defense can be picked on, but again, you're on the road, colder conditions. Are you going to throw the ball as much? This team will be tested in that way to get that run game going. And so let's go ahead and jump into our offensive predictions and where do I fall with the Cowboys visiting the Commanders at FedEx Field to close out the regular season. Well, I don't think Dak Prescott's going to go nuclear as he did on Thanksgiving, especially under the field conditions that we'll expect in Washington in Week 18. And I personally think we're going to see a heavy emphasis on the running game, especially in this one. So I got Dak Prescott going 2 touchdowns. And I'll go 200-plus yards. But I think it's a pretty solid day, which will just be a nice bow on top of a really spectacular MVP season for Dak Prescott. And he'll get his 11th win against the Washington Commanders in his career. Now, I told you, Tony Pollard needs 65 yards to get to 1,000 on the year, and I do believe he gets that 65 yards. I'm telling you, this is a running game, and there's just one more thing we need to check off the list before we go into the postseason, and we just need to see a great run game. We need to see a great run game, and could this be it? I don't know, but I'm going to go out there and say it is. I believe Tony Pollard has over 65 rushing yards. I believe he's going to get more than 80 rushing yards, and I will put him in for 2 touchdowns. Yes, I think Tony Pollard has a big day. I know I've made predictions about Tony Pollard in the past few weeks of him having big games, but I believe it, man. He's got to have a big game at some point, and I believe this is it. And last but not least, the Dallas Cowboys have only scored over 30 points on the road twice this season. It was in Week 1 against the New York Giants, and it was against the Carolina Panthers where they scored 33. This offense has failed to score more than 20 points in the past 3 weeks, and I believe this offense gets back into a really good rhythm with the help of their defense, which I believe will score a touchdown on a takeaway. I believe this team scores more than 30 points against the Washington Commanders on Week 18, and those are my offensive predictions. Once again, thank you so much for watching and tuning into this final edition of our regular season pregame prediction videos. But here we go. Game prediction Week 18. The Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Commanders. The Cowboys need this win to clinch the NFC East. And if they get the NFC East, they're the number 2 seed. And if they're the number 2 seed, then you got a lot of home games if you advance each round. This is big. This is huge. And I can't believe we're here just because the Cowboys have lost 2 out of the last 3 of their games and got really close to losing against Detroit. So it's fascinating how bad the Eagles are because how bad and how fraudulent the Eagles are have helped the Cowboys get to this point. And, aside from that, The 5-game winning streak, like I keep telling you guys, really helped the Cowboys put themselves in this situation here to take advantage of this opportunity. And when I mean take advantage, I mean seize it. They need to seize this opportunity here. And what has been the freaking mantra all season long since training camp? They put it on the shirts. They put it on the hats. They've been telling all the players everything. Carpe omnia, seize everything. This is the moment. It's not just a training camp mojo moment. This is the moment that can lead up to bigger moments going into the postseason. To say as a team that we went on the road and yeah, you beat the Commanders, but you had to win this game to earn something, which would be the NFC East title, which would be the second in 3 years. That means something. I don't care who you're playing in the last week of football. If you can go out there, seize it, take it, and win it, that is a sign of a disciplined, effective, good football team. And I love what Mike McCarthy said when they asked him about it in his press conference earlier this week. He said, the playoffs have already begun. The Cowboys have been in playoff mode for the past couple of weeks already with Buffalo, with Miami, with Detroit. So the mindset should not shift here. The Cowboys need to get this win. They need to get this win if we want to believe, if we want to get behind this team going into the postseason, because, oh my God, if they somehow find a way to drop this game and lose, oh my God, I don't even want to think about it. It gets me frustrated just thinking about it. But this team is good. This team is talented. And this team can go on the road and they can get this win. I believe it. I believe the Dallas Cowboys will sweep the Washington Commanders. I'm speaking into existence. And just like I told you guys a few weeks ago, I told you that the I told you that the Eagles could not be trusted. And I told you that the Cowboys would have an opportunity to win the NFC East. And I even predicted that they would win the NFC East. And I am standing by that even still. The Dallas Cowboys will be NFC East champions for the second time in 3 years, and they will host the playoff game. They will be the number 2 seed, and the Cowboys, I believe, win this game decisively. I think it will be, a little bump here and there in the first half for the Cowboys to find their footing on the road, but the Cowboys will run away with this one. I got the Cowboys winning 34-19 against the Commanders in Week 18 to clinch that NFC East. They will do it. I believe it. But other than that, that is it for our final pregame prediction video of the regular season. Of course, we will go into the postseason. But this game is important. Both games are going live. You got the Eagles and the Giants and the Cowboys and the Commanders. Both are going on at the same time on Sunday in the afternoon. Cowboys, you got to win this. You got to win this. You got to win this. Don't overthink this. You just go out there, win. You're a good football team. This is what winners do. This is what good teams do. They take care of the teams that they should, and great teams do it on a consistent basis. Golden opportunity here. Somehow, some way, this landed in our lap despite losing 2 out of the last 3 games. But it's here. Go seize it. Carpe omnia. Seize it. You got this. I believe. Let's go. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys after the game on Sunday. Be sure to check out the Madden prediction, and I will see you guys then. Go Cowboys.
Prescott. Touchdown.